when I was a kid, I was very into like building toys. I was into Tinker Toys and Legos and all the things, right?
So I actually got in trouble in middle school on Halloween for dressing as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
You know, I think a pixie cut's a very strong haircut, but I think being from a traditionally conservative area and stuff, it was it was such a weird thing to do, to be a girl with short hair. Like, people looked at me like I was so weird.
One time I built a laser gun or something, and I was like all excited about it out of Tinker Toys. So I build it and I like run out into the living room and I was like, Mom, look what I built. I built this laser gun. It's so cool. She was like, can you build something that's not so boyish?
And I go to school and my friends are like Slay Queen, but then a lot of people had a problem with it, and then I got in trouble because it was distracting. Like, everyone was wearing costumes that day. I don't know why I was suffered that, but I was told like change your shoes. So I had to like sit in the office for the rest of the day. So yeah, that was my punishment for not acting like my gender. You know, gender is always a thing, from signs on a bathroom door. It's like we cannot escape it. But it's something like in school, you know, there were times when it was like, okay, the girls are gonna go do this and the boys are gonna do this. And it was like, I don't wanna do this. I wanna learn to sew. I don't wanna chop freaking wood or whatever, you know? So
My my entire childhood, I was told, you know, like Lily, sit like a lady, sit like, oh, Lily, you can't sit like that. Cross your legs. Oh, you have to sit up straight, and oh, you can't wear that. That's too masculine. Like, you need to dress like a girl. Like, I think those gender norms are impressed upon us at such a young age.
I was a camp counselor for many years. And being around kids, especially like elementary school aged, kids have a very strict idea of what a boy is versus what a girl is because they're making sense of gender for themselves. And so they abide by the rules very strictly. And you kind of see like what the archetype is through a child's eyes.
I think acting like a boy has made me make certain friends more and made me in certain environments like better off. You know, if I'm acting more like a boy and I'm dressing like specifically a straight boy, you know, using that like male privilege, bonding with the bros, you know, versus like. But I find that also I want to reject that so much because I find that disgusting. But you have to play it up sometimes to get what you want. So you almost have to conform to get like respect, which is sad, but
I think growing up being like identifying and being labeled as a girl definitely had a certain expectation on myself of like wearing dresses, and but I couldn't, it's like I could dress a certain way, I had to dress femininely, but it's like it couldn't be too feminine that it was skimpy or it was revealing or it somehow embraced the natural female form. So that sort of idea of like dressing in a feminine way definitely had an impact on me, both in a way that I followed it and then rebelled against it and have kind of come to this neutral place with it now. I also think it's changed a lot of my mannerisms. Like, I tend to be someone who apologizes a lot because women are taught not to take up space and to apologize and or to move out of the way of people or to be the quiet person in the room or to be the nice person in the room and to say thank you to everything and not put up like into to not stand up for ourselves. So I think that's something I've really had to unlearn.
I think men are taught to view women as like an object a lot, not necessarily like always taught, you know, but it's just inherent, it's observed, and it's, you know, in order to be manly, it's like you have to objectify women, and I don't vibe with that at all. But I've found that I have in situations played that up to make myself appear more straight, you know? It's like, yeah, bro, she's so hot, I would totally smash. But like, that is so unfeminist, and that's not how I talk. But that's like a lie, but that's helped me in certain situations make connections with other straight men.
I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of bias, especially around queer men, um, and how, you know, men are kind of forced to kind of be a little more like forced to downplay their sexuality, maybe more than cis women. I think it has a lot to do with like the idea of toxic masculinity and being keeping up that role of being a man, you know.
I think gender expectations have impacted my sexuality. Um, because I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive, it's like you want to make your son straight, you sign him up to play sports, but for me that was the most homoerotic experience of my life. So I'm vibing in the showers in high school with all the naked men. That was supposed to make me straight, but it didn't, because I'm like, this is my sexual awakening. So
Well, I do think it's very common that women have the freedom to kind of explore their gender and sexuality more freely. I feel like for men, maybe that's definitely a little more stigmatized. So I can see how maybe there would be. I've kind of had the privilege to explore it a little more with a little less stigma, but I don't think gender influences it in any way other than like socially.
I think it's something I've had to figure out, like growing up again in like a more traditionally conservative area, like having a kind of a nasty coming out experience was kind of hard for me. So I think that led me in sort of a direction of like wanting to be straight and sort of like pushing that way and thinking that was what I had to do because that was the right way to be.
I think looking at it like a spectrum is really useful, because nobody is 100% or 50-50. Everyone's a little bit fruity. So it's like you could be 40-60, I could be 70-30, and that's like okay. And I don't even need to have a label for that. That's just my sexuality, and that's my freedom to explore everything, try things out.
I certainly feel like perhaps they're correlated for some people, but I don't think they're deterministic of each other. For example, I'm bisexual. A lot of people like to make the joke that bisexual people like have never made a choice in their life. So it's like, I like men and women. I'm not going to choose. Fuck you. Or it's like, I'm going to be feminine and masculine and I'm not going to choose. Fuck you. I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. It seems to be a pretty common experience, but I know a lot of queer women who present in typically feminine ways or very masculine ways. And I know a lot of gay men who are very masculine, and I know some who are very feminine. And it really is a matter of, what you're comfortable with. I don't think one determines the other.
I think I've kind of gone through a lot of shifts with this, and I feel like right now I feel very comfortable expressing that like being a girl is something that is different for every person. I'm not ashamed of my femininity. I'm not ashamed to be a girly girl or to like makeup and to like my earrings and fashion and shopping. I think that that's something that's really been important to me in my journey. Is like, I think it's amazing to understand that girlhood is reflected on all spectrums of like gender presentation. So that's something I've been coming to terms with, is like, if I want to present more masculine, that's just as valid as like presenting more feminine and loving those things that are considered traditionally girly.